Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, Desiree. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited for this conversation because who amongst us does not get stuck in a food rut sometimes? So I'm really excited to just share positive information about how to bust a food rut, how to diversify what you're eating.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I'm happy to do that because eating is such a big part of life, and we want to keep it fun and exciting. So,
Totally. Do you
yeah.
find especially because you're a new parent, do you find yourself often in a food rut or not often?
More so now than ever before. I find when you're feeding littles, and my kids are right now 16 months.
So little.
So so they're yeah, I know. It's funny because to me they feel big when I think of the grand scheme of how old they really are. They are still really little, but then they don't warm up to like new foods as much. So like you introduce a new food, like I tried to give them ground flaxseed and they're like, nah, not having it. Like spit it out. And then I give them the same thing, like, rice and quinoa. It's like, oh, we like this. So we end up eating the same thing, like maybe for a couple days, but it's because they like it. So I get kind of bored. So I got to find ways to make my meals a little bit more exciting. So yeah, definitely. Parenting definitely changes how you eat for sure.
Yeah, it definitely changes. I found with my first that, I was very dietitian-y in how I fed him. And I was like, here is your half an avocado and a spoon, eat up. And he would. But then I landed with my second, who was like, no, I
Yeah.
would like toast and apples and candy and potato chips and nothing else. Thank you very much. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true for sure. And also, like, because I have twins, they have different food preferences too. So you see that as well. Like, one will be more into one will eat more like your second one, like more into the carbs. The other one's like, I just want to eat meat and cheese. So it's funny how it happens.
Perfect. You can divide the plate between them.
Yeah, no, that's the way it is with them. So, you know,
See, dietitians are eaters too. We are just like you. If you're listening to this thinking that we always eat the most diverse and interesting and nutrient dense things all the time, no, we're actually just like you.
just like, no, just like you for sure. Definitely.
Well, maybe we should start there then. As a dietitian, I love asking this question because, on the handful of occupations we get when we're 5 years old, we're like doctor, nurse, firefighter. Dietitian is not on the bingo card. So, how did you find dietetics? What made you want to become a dietitian?
See, it's funny you say that because one of the ones out of those doctor, firefighter, another one is teacher, and I thought I was going to be a teacher. I thought I was going to be an art teacher,
Amazing.
because arts was the way where I came from, the visual arts. But then as an introvert, I found it really hard to be with that many kids at once when I did summer camps. Like I would do summer camps. I know camp is not school, but like that many children is just like, oh, it was so exhausting. And the cleanup when you do art, like it's like the other teachers are like the other counselors are in the camp where I was doing this kind of arts education. They just turn off the computers and be like, okay, the day's done. And I would be like scrubbing glitter off like the tables and stuff and like glue. And this would be like 5 o'clock and I'm still there. So I kind of was like, I don't know if I really want to um, be teach because I just think it would just drain me. So I was studying visual arts. Like I have a BFA in visual arts. That's where I started from. And then I came across this photojournalism book and it's called Hungry Planet: What the World Eats.
Mm.
And it really highlights, I think, like how people eat around the world, nutrition and food and culture. And I was getting more interested in nutrition at the time and food. So I decided to go study dietetics after studying visual arts, which was a whole other like and then back up again. Long journey, but I made it here. And then in my career now, I would say what I do mostly is nutrition communications, which is the perfect combination of both things, like the creative side, but then like the nutrition communications, like bringing people good information about how to improve their health and nutrition is and it's something I love to do. So
Yeah. I say all the time that there is an art and a science to dietetics, which I think many people don't understand. But for you, you just typify that so much. But I want to ask you about the Hungry Planet book because am I remembering it right? Is it the one where all over the world they would like have the family and then have all of the food that they ate in like a day or a week, like
Yes.
photographed with them?
Yes. It was
That
so
was
cool.
amazing. And
Yeah.
anyone who's listening, we will pop it in the show notes just as like this cool archive book that you got to check out of the library. It's awesome.
Oh, it's so cool, and, like, it's just so different, and how much money they spend on food, like, like, the cost of groceries, and I don't it was just I was fascinated, I just loved it, and it combined, like, photography with, like, kinda like the culture and food nutrition, which is why I
Mhm.
got really into it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, like, as you were doing your fine arts degree, like, you started getting more into food and nutrition. Like, was food a big part of your growing up? Like, was food an important part of your family life?
I would say so. I think coming from a Chinese background, food is always very important. It's such a big part of our culture. We love to eat. We love to share food. Everything happens with food. Every community, family event, there's always food. So, I mean, that was very much like for me. So food was important to me, but I didn't really think about like the food and how it relates to, health and art and that kind of stuff until much later on. To me, it was just like something you just ate because you just ate what you were given in my household. So, and then I guess I got started getting more into like learning more about recipes and cooking and stuff, and that's kind of where that interest peaked a bit.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite foods growing up?
A lot. I mean, there were a lot of foods. Like I can't really say that there's any food that I don't like, but I would say probably as a kid, my favorite and still my favorite now is egg tarts. Definitely, like I just love egg tarts, and even still today, I still love them. I love these. This is something my spouse introduced me to, but it's these deep fried Vietnamese spring rolls. They're called chago. I'm probably not saying it right, but they're really yummy and very good too. Um, I love ramen. I love pizza too. I mean, I think most foods, if it's I just kind of eat it. I don't really like. I don't question a lot of like I don't know what it is. Black sesame desserts. Oh, I love anything
Mm,
that's black sesame. I just love it.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably like something that people don't realize about dietitians because they think of us only in the context of health or potentially, a lot of people think of us in the context of like restrictive medical diets for whatever your health goals are, but it's like actually we are like down to eat. Like we love to eat. You go to a dietitian potluck and like the food will be epic.
Oh, I totally agree. And I noticed too now, I didn't say like salad or anything like that. Like I didn't say anything like typically that I think people would expect me to say. In fact, people still are always very surprised. I'm like, you eat that? I'm like, yeah, you give your kids pizza. I'm like, I do. It's like, oh. And then they're either, they usually people are like, oh, that's okay. That means it's okay if I give my kid pizza. It's like, yeah. I know how hard it is to feed kids. So I mean, like, you just want them to eat. Like,
Yeah,
so, and we're not like, I would say most dietitians are very diverse in what they choose to eat. And they're always often willing to try new things.
totally. Yeah,
So,
and it comes back to this like one, fed is best. Two, okay, so like let's add this layer of like nutrition to it. But if we're doing this sort of like hierarchy of like food needs, I think part of it is also that often gets missed in the conversation about health and wellness is like pleasure and
yes.
joy and like actually liking what you eat, which is why the conversation about busting a food rut is so important. Like, why do you think we get into these food ruts in the first place?
Well, one of them is I think if you're a parent, you know what that feels like. And I talk to other parents, they're like, I feel a little sad when they say this because they'll be like, "Oh, I don't even enjoy food as much as I used to because it's just based on what the kids like. So then Monday is this day, Tuesday is this day." And I really understand it from a parent point of view. Like you just want to feed them food that they'll eat, and also, and they might be picky, and a lot of time that's a normal thing too. Picky eating is normal. I think people are like, I'm sure dietitians' kids eat all their vegetables and they always eat healthy. It's like, no, 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 no,
No.
not at all. Absolutely not. They're kids. I think also part of it can be food literacy. I think sometimes people just don't know as much if you're not as exposed to different kinds of foods, or you don't know as much, then that can get you in a rut too, where you know how to make certain dishes, but then to expand beyond that and to make other dishes would be either intimidating, or you don't have the knowledge, and that's okay. I mean, that's something that can always be learned, and you can always try it, and that's just why I feel like a lot of times people get stuck in a rut.
Yeah, and I think acknowledging that it's also normal, particularly with, like, how much we have going on. I mean, just to keep a roof over our heads in these days, groceries on the table, how hard we work, family commitments, we tend to parent 10 times harder than, like, our parents' generation
Yeah.
used to. So it is normal if sometimes you just wanna, like, put food on autopilot.
Oh, that too, totally. And again, too, it might be not the best time to try new things, as your budget is not really in that space right now. You have a certain budget for groceries or for food, and you want to get stuff that the family will eat, that we're all going to eat this, it's going to be enjoyed. But then at the same time, might get a little bit bored. So, like, sometimes it's like little things. But yes, that's a really important part of the conversation as well.
Yeah. And, the enjoyment piece is super important, but I think people would also be surprised to know that there is a sneaky health and nutrition piece to diet diversity. Like, why, in terms of our actual health, is diversity important?
Yeah, I mean, it is making life, it does make life more exciting, I think. But also I find too, I guess because I talk a lot about Asian food in my content and in my work, that when I introduce things to people, they're always like, "Where have you been all my life?" Or they're like, "I only discovered this now, like now." And I'm always like, "Okay, but now better than never." And they're like, "I wish I discovered this like years ago," or something that they really love or they really enjoy eating. So, I mean, I think that's part of it too. It's just when I introduce new things to people, they're often surprised, and it just opens up their world in a way that they never thought, was there before. That was never there before. That's what I mean to say.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of like when we think about nutrition, like half the battle of nutrition is being motivated enough to do the work. And like just as you said, you're like, "Oh my gosh, my whole world opened up." Like when you have that excitement, you're like, "Oh, can I make food fun?" The more fun food is, the more likely I am to sort of like eat in a way that nourishes my body as well.
Yeah, like even for me too, like because my in-laws are Chinese from Vietnam, and like Chinese Vietnamese, and like they eat things differently. Like being from Southeast Asia, there are things that they eat differently than, say, like way I eat, like from like the southern Chinese, like southern China, like the Hong Kong China Cantonese way of eating, which is very like more, I would say, because we were part under British rule, that our food was more plain, like just not as like exciting and flavorful. And so like my mother-in-law will bring in these things sometimes, or she's like, I made this chili oil, and it's her own specialty. And like after I tried it, and at first I used to be like, spicy food, okay, it's okay, I don't love it. And now I'm just like, spicy food with a little bit of crunch, or a little bit of like the little extra little things in it that just make your life more exciting. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Like for me too. And so now even when I'm eating a dish and I'm like, it needs a little bit more flavor, then it's like, I will add like this chili oil that she made,
Mm.
from scratch, like, which is, I'm so lucky because I don't have to buy the one in the store, and like it just elevates the dish. Which I don't give this to my kids because it's, the spicy food just doesn't sit with them yet. But for me, it makes my life a little more exciting in through food. Just adding that little something extra, chili oil, or she makes like a chili crunch or something, or just things that you can add to dishes, like everyday dishes, to kind of elevate them, to make them a little bit more exciting.
Yeah. What are some of your other things like that? Like I'm a massive like chili oil, I'm also a spicy food person. Like I
Yeah.
have more is more taste buds. I'm like just
Yeah. Yeah.
pile
Yeah.
it all on. So to that, like what are some of the other sort of like quick things, if people like, oh, I just sort of like whipped this dinner together in 15 minutes just because I had to, it's not the most exciting. Like, what other things would you suggest they add to it that they could keep in the fridge? They'd be like, oh, now here's a new layer of flavor.
Sometimes I add Maggie sauce.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's like
Maybe,
high in sodium, but like it just takes it next level. I mean, another obvious one would be like MSG, but
yes.
so
Also, Panda Shaker. But for people who don't know what Maggie sauce is, do you want to describe it?
it comes in a I can't explain it, like a bottle that's kind of a square shape, and the package is usually I think it's yellow and red, and so you would just pour like a little bit at a time. You think of like it's kind of like Worcestershire sauce, I would say. It's
Hmm.
a bit like that, but better. And even the way it pours out is kind of similar in those like the bottles. So you could just add like a little bit to like whatever you're eating, whether rice or protein or whatever, and it just brings the flavor up. It's got that umami, but it
Yeah.
also has like that extra flavor, that salt to it as well. And sometimes I feel like for people who are like, you always get people who say like, I don't like vegetables or I don't eat vegetables. I find sometimes when you have a little bit of something that you add to it to elevate it a bit, it makes you like it better and it makes you eat more of it. So
Yeah.
I think that way about Maggie sauce, for sure. And that's what I would, and of course also like the chili oils and stuff too. So or chili crunch, which has like sometimes it has like beans in it, like black beans in it. It's
Hmm.
got this little nice crunchiness. It adds that extra texture, which is really good. So
Yeah. I'm very excited to talk to you about vegetables a little later in the episode, but I think also for people who grew up with this very Eurocentric sort of like meat, potatoes, veg plate, so often the vegetables were plain. Like if you're like,
yeah,
oh, I don't like, well, no, I get it. Like if you boiled a Brussels sprout within an inch of its life and then put it on the plate plain, like I get that you do not like vegetables. I understand this.
yeah, yeah. I learned that too, and I've noticed. I don't know if that's something that comes from the war, where it was during the war, like because of food safety, or you had to
Yeah.
cook your vegetables or everything very, very, like well, it was well cooked to make sure there was nothing that could grow in it, or there was no other things. Like I don't know if it was from that or if it was also
Mhm.
from the war because you ate a lot of canned vegetables. So you got used to eating them that way. And then that's the way you cook them as well. And I don't know if that's, again, like the Eurocentric way. I don't know if that's where it came from. But sometimes I
Yeah.
wonder, because I'm just like, because I'm an Asian background, I'm just like, we have so many ways to season our food. We just have like a millions of ways. But then like when other people who are not of the same background as me, they just kind of go, oh, salt or pepper or butter. Okay, butter is a great one. We love butter.
Yeah.
But I'm
Butter's an
kind of like,
excellent flavor crutch.
oh yeah, it is. It's something that yeah, that comes out of, I guess, the Eurocentric way that is amazing. But then I wonder, I'm like, maybe that's why. Like, because did you eat a lot of canned vegetables, and that's how you were used to them? So when you cooked your own vegetables, you cooked them until it was like that. So you never
Mhm.
got to be like, this vegetable is so yummy. It's like, ew, it's like mush and it's flavorless. And that maybe that's why. Like, it's a
Yeah.
thing from the past, or I don't know, or it's a culture. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's I didn't grow up with mushy vegetables, and so even though I come from
Yeah.
a European background, so, like, it
Yeah.
wasn't part of but then, like, my husband's family, like, more sort of, like, British
Yes.
background, British and Norwegian, and
Yes.
100% they eat some plain, super mushy vegetables. So, yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm very excited to talk more about adding diversity to your veggies, but I think in order to sort of, like, set up the conversation about, like, what to add diversity with, we need to talk how, particularly because we've already sort of mentioned like most of us already feel like we're going full tilt all the time. Like, how do you make space for food prep in a busy life? And, I think for you, like, you're the perfect person to ask at this moment in your life because you are so in it with toddlers and a career and all of the other stuff that goes with it. So, like,
Yeah.
how is space made?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've noticed too, and I think this is for everyone who becomes a parent, is that you do things really fast. You realize how fast you can do things. You didn't realize that, even so, it's like if I'm prepping food, I have like my sauce covered, and I've got all sorts of things in there. I got soy sauces, I have fish sauce, I've got vinegars, I've got all the hot sauce, got all the stuff in there, and I can just kind of grab whatever. And then I have like the spice cupboard. It's a drawer. You pull open the drawer, and then you have all the different spices there too. And even ones I find I use more convenience ones now, the all-in-one seasonings. I find just
Mhm.
because it's just more efficient with instead of the way I used to do things where I'd be like, because I don't have the time anymore. So that way there's something that's kind of already ready there that I can grab. I was like, okay, well, today I actually want to use everything bagel seasoning because that's what I want to use and it's right there. So depending on what I'm cooking. And then with the sauces too, it helps to have your sauce cupboard to be a little more organized because I have like oil, I have the hot sauce, and then I have the vinegars, and then I have the soy sauces. Like they're all kind of relatively in the same area, so I kind of know what to grab, so I don't have to be like, well, where am I going to put this back? Put this back in the same place most of the time, and then keep
Sometimes,
it
half the time.
try to keep it organized. Do your best, but it does make cooking to be a little bit more efficient. And sometimes it's okay to shortcut. I think people think meals from scratch are like these um, the best meals. And I think we're moving away from that because I think people are understanding now we don't have as much time as we did before, especially if you're
Mhm.
working. So if you buy like the pre-cut broccolis, or that's totally fine. You buy the beans that are already pre-washed in the bag, and those you can just you don't have to worry about doing too much food prep with that. Like that helps to make things a little bit easier. A little bit of meal prep does help. Like sometimes if I know that I'm gonna we're gonna need like onions or something chopped up. Like I'll make sure I'll
Mhm.
chop up more so that I can use it in one dish one day and the next day and the next day. But I mean, I also will say too that I also get help. Like my spouse does a lot of the feeding as well, coming from like a real food family. My mother-in-law is, really into cooking, and she does a lot of food prep for us too. Like she really wants it's just her thing because she's worked in
Yeah.
professional kitchens her whole life. Um, so that helps to have a village in my case, like helps out. But I also just make sure too if I'm making a meal, like we don't want to cook tomorrow, it's going to be too much work time to cook tomorrow, I'm just going to cook more extra, like cooking once and eating twice. I can eat this for 2 or 3 days. And the thing about feeding kids too is that they don't have an issue with eating the same thing the next day. I notice they're like, we'll eat that again, no problem. I'm like, okay, then this is what we're going to do. And then that way it just kind of decreases the mental load on me and less labor to and still kind of get something on the table. So
Yeah. I do find that kids can be really good for that, unless you really push the boundaries of that, like I do, and I can be working on a recipe and we will eat it like 5 times in 2 weeks, and I just look
oh
at their entire body just shudder as they sit down to the table. They're like, "We can't waste it. It's good food. It was a bit of a fail today, but we have to eat it."
That's so funny. I guess it makes sense because you're like a recipe developer. That makes sense. No, of
Yeah.
course, of
Yeah.
course. That's so funny. Yeah, it's like how
Yeah.
many times can you eat the same thing? And there's like this again.
And then
Oh,
they might not eat it again for, like, 6 months.
it's
Like,
like
they won't
no.
even have to look at it.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
It's a bit of a problem. So, if someone finds I do love the tip you gave about the batch cooking, again, because I develop recipes, like, I'm not a meal prepper because I know there needs to be, like, cooking built into my work week, but the idea that, like, well, if I'm gonna go to the trouble of like cooking up a batch of grains, like why wouldn't I just like takes
Yeah,
me no extra time to cook up double that can be in the fridge, or if I'm not sure when I'm going to use it, I pop it into the freezer. And that way, yeah, those nights where
yeah,
you're just like, no, you can like open up a can of beans, those grains are in the fridge and you just go for it.
yeah. Like stuff like that. Like I'm not a great meal prepper myself either, and we don't do a lot of meal prep in this house. But when I'm cooking, um, when there's cooking happening, we always make more. So, and then that way, it also keeps the cooking not feel as laborious because if you had to cook every single night, and I know a lot of people do that too, it can get pretty exhausting, having to cook every single night. But if you or more than one meal a night, I don't know, like everyone is um, all families are different and stuff. But if you don't have to do that extra work, then it keeps you more refreshed and kind of keeps you more like just feeling better about cooking, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's, there is this sort of like helpful, liberating aspect to routine. But the flip side of that is also monotony. And so if you find yourself at 5 p.m. just being like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, like this, having those foods. So you're like, well, why don't I cook once, eat twice? Like already you've just reduced your labor by like 50% and it doesn't feel so heavy.
Oh yeah, especially like how busy families can get. Like, certain nights you got all these activities, your kids are doing different things, and then, it just helps to like not there's just no time to do food prep or cooking that night. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Mhm.
So once you have that sort of set and you've created that space, then it's like, okay, so I need to bust out of this rut. I need to try something new. And maybe immediately you're like, I'm in, like, give me anything. I'm so excited for anything and everything. But what if you tend to you be a little bit more cautious of new things? You're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I don't want to spend my money and maybe I'll waste it. Like, what are some tips do you have for exploring like new to you foods?
So I find people usually warm up to sweet foods first. Like,
Hmm,
like
fair.
fruits or dessert dishes, or and I'll say like exotic fruits in this context. It's like this is something that is a sweet thing. It might be good. Um, the other thing is it's stuff that's deep fried. People also tend to like gravitate towards that, and like every culture has a deep fried something. Like every culture does it. So I find that tends to be a way that people like to can enjoy it or try something new. Usually I find too what I see it's what I see advertised. Like there's stuff that um s- eh, you know I'm not sure about trying too, and I will usually wait until if I see something advertised in a flyer or something, like let's say it's on special at the store, and in my case, like the Asian grocery store has something advertised on special, and like I'm like maybe I'll try that because it's the price is lower. I can try it and see if I like it, see if my family will like it, and then that's where I might expand what I know and go and get something different or new. So I think also sometimes like it's also who you follow and bloggers and creators that make diverse dishes. I find they can be a source of inspiration too. Like I'm inspired all the time, just looking at like the different things that not just dietitians do, but other food creators do, like what they're trying and like what they say about it. I'm like, okay, so that inspires me too, like to try something. So, but then it's also like looking at the what the store advertises like on flyers or specials and stuff. So because it's also usually not always, but usually reflects also what's the most fresh and what's in season. So rather than buying something that's just it's not the season for whatever fruit or vegetable or anything or whatever it is that is the new and unique food. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, and when it's out of season, it's also not gonna, like, taste its best too, so if you're
no,
trying it for the first time and you're like, "This was pretty mid," you're like, "Well,
yeah.
yeah, because it's not the season for that."
I mean, I've had people come to me and say, I don't because I've made some posts about persimmon, and I've
Mhm.
had people come to me and say, "I've tried persimmon and it wasn't good." And I'm like, and that's fine. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. But they're like, "You said it tastes like this. It doesn't taste like you said they taste like honey. They don't taste like honey. It tasted more like blah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fair." But it could also be the type, the type, maybe the ripeness, maybe they didn't know when was the best time to eat it. Maybe they got one that wasn't good. I don't know. It's just the same thing that happens with like, other fruits that I talk about, like pomelo or something,
Mhm.
like it's just funny how like, or sometimes I'm like, maybe you have to try that again, or maybe maybe you need to give it to me because like the one you eat is like tastes better. I don't know because I've had people say that too.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is definitely one place where the internet can be really helpful because if you see something on special and then you buy it and you're like, how do I know if it's ripe? Like, because that's such a big
Yeah,
piece too, especially when we're talking about something like fruit. Like, if it's not ripe and you be like, Google, 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 and you're like, oh, it should be like this when it's ripe. So I got to like let it sit on my counter for four
yeah.
days before I try it.
Or you let it go too past its ripe, like, and then you tried it, and that's why it wasn't good because the timing was so there's the opposite too, where
Yeah.
like you know it's overripe when this happens. So
Yeah, the avocado rule, like, not ready, not ready,
Yes!
not ready, perfect for 30 minutes, and now you've lost it.
No, that's the perfect example. Yes, the avocados for sure.
Yeah. So, in terms of I wanted to, like, pick your brain because we're here, we're listening, we're ready to try some new things, and then we're like, "Well, there are 75 million new things." Like, what might help just, like, eliminate the burden of choice and overwhelm? And, like, what are some foods you think that folks should try to add diversity to their diet? So, we've come up
Yeah.
with, like, a little list of, like, 3 or 4, I think. Yeah?
Yeah.
Um, let's go for it. Like, what are your top foods to try? We'll do like what's the food and like why you think it's a great one for people to try, and then like maybe how they could use it.
Yes. So one of the top ones I have on my list is passion fruit.
Hmm.
It is the flavor is just it's a little sour, but it's also sweet. It's got an interesting different texture, and it's also got good nutrition like the vitamins like A and C and fiber and potassium. It's just something that I feel like a lot of people should try for sure.
It's my favorite fruit, and maybe then we should also talk about it's not like you look at it and you're like, how do I know that this is right and ripe to eat right now?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I feel like it depends on which one you get too, because there are ones
Mhm.
that are the yellow, and then there are ones that I think are purple on the outside. So it depends on which one you get. But I do know that when it starts to discolor, it's not good anymore. Like it starts to around the stem part, it starts to change color. It should also be kind of like a little firm when you pick it up. And they usually come because they are imported because they can't grow in this part of the world. They're usually packaged, but you can see like the color if it's the orange one, which is the one I'm thinking about, it should be a
Mhm.
nice kind of orangey yellow color. It should be kind of firm. And it shouldn't have like discoloration, like it shouldn't be turning like darker colors in parts of it. That's a sign that it's getting like a little bit older. So that's what worked for me when I've been picking out passion fruit.
I love that. And then with the purple one, it's kind of the exact opposite because you want it wrinkly.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
the orange one yeah, like, the yellow one is, like, firm and glossy and
Yeah, that's
beautiful, and
right.
then the purple one, when it looks like a shriveled granny, they're like, "That's when you go for it."
And that's when it tastes like the best too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it's also my favorite. I love that you chose it because it's, like, my favorite fruit,
No,
so
I love that one too. It's a really good one. Another one I would say is oyster mushrooms.
Mhm.
So they are like in Asian cuisine, they're used in so many things, like soups and stir fries and all sorts of things. And also in like plant-based, like vegan cooking, they're eaten a lot too. They're very, very popular. And they have a lot of course, the nutrition is great on them too, but they're also like FODMAP friendly. Like that's a big part of it too for people who are eating that way. And that one I really like too. They have the nice kind of meaty texture, which I think is just very yummy, and the flavor is also really good. So I like oyster mushrooms.
Yeah, and, like, do you fry them? Would you just pop them into soups, like, as is? Like, what are a couple of the ways that you use them?
I usually fry them. Like you put them in the hot frying pan and you just leave them there, and then all the water comes out and it gets a nice browning color. That's usually how I usually do it. So um, it's it's nice. It's best I find when you have that little bit of like browning. I find that's when it tastes the best. It has that browning and the water has evaporated and come out of it. I find that's when it's the tastiest. That's when the flavor really comes out.
Yeah, love them. So, so good. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so next one I have is mung bean noodles.
Yay! Okay, awesome. Tell us.
Yeah, so and in Chinese and Cantonese we call it fan si. I I I think in English you do call them mung bean noodles. I had to look up the name because I didn't know what they were called, but um, they're really good noodles. They are a lower carb alternative to rice noodles. So a lot of people who, they're watching their blood sugar or, diabetes or something, especially in my community, a lot of people will go for if they have diabetes or they need to watch blood sugar, then they go for a mung bean noodle over like a rice noodle. So it's a good one. I find it's pretty yummy. I mean, I find too. I think because it's a mung bean from the mung bean I don't know, plant. I mean, would you call it
Mhm.
plant? I don't know, bean.
Yeah,
Um, but it
straw.
but it just to me, it's like a normal noodle. I don't know. But I think it's a good one and stuff. You can do a lot of different things with it. Like you can stir fry it. You can um, Usually I eat it like stir fried, or you can have it with like a soup in a soupy kind of dish. And like a soupy dish, it's like soup noodles. You can have it like that too.
Amazing. Awesome. I mean, who doesn't love a noodle? So, like, let's add
Yeah.
to the variety of noodles we've got on our plate. Okay, what's next?
So then I also have pomelo, like a gigantic grapefruit, but I find and they also like very similar nutritional benefits to a grapefruit. With like being like a citrus fruit, but it's a lot more value for money. Like they're often really large,
They are
and
big.
obviously you're not going to eat the whole thing unless you really want to, but it's a lot, especially for the really large ones. It's more of a sharing one. But I like that one too. It's just a different citrus fruit, like different from stuff that's more common, like oranges and grapefruits, and a nice one that if you get there's ones where they're like the honey pomelo where it's the flesh is kind of yellow, and then there's one where it's like the red one where it looks more like a grapefruit. The flesh is like kind of pinky orange. So they're both good. They're both great, but I just find it's a nice different one. And sometimes the yellow fleshy one, people look at it and think it looks gross. Which I've had people say that. Like people say like that looks gross. I once had a neighbor come over and we had pomelo and she's um and this neighbor is Greek, so she's not as used to like our food. And so she came over and she was like, "What is that?" And she's like, "That looks." She said, "It looks gross." And we're like, "Oh, it's pomelo. Would you like to try some?" So I gave it to her, and she was like, "This is so delicious. This is so good." And then she went with her daughter to the store to buy a pomelo the next day. But she wouldn't have
I
known
love it.
unless she tried it because
Yeah.
it can look like I don't know, sheep's brains. I don't know what it can look like sometimes when it's got all the when it's peeled and like in its segments and it's got the white stuff around it. It just looks kind of like it just doesn't look like something really very yummy. Maybe it's the color too. It's like this pale yellow color. I don't
Yeah.
know. But she tried it and she thought it was so good. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you tried it." And then it inspired her to go out with her daughter to buy it at the store. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
I always with pomelo and grapefruit, I do exactly like I peel all the skin away from the
Yeah.
segments. Like you do all that work and just reveal the juicy flesh. Like I don't eat a orange that way, but like pomelos and grapefruits, that's the only way. And
Yes.
once I've gone to all that work, my children will actually take it down in 30 seconds and be like, "Can we have another one?" I was like, "No, I'm tired." I'm tired from peeling.
It is work to peel it, right? Like I have this thing I do where I use a knife and I cut like an X and then you peel it back, and because it's so much pith, right? Like compared
Yeah.
to because it's really big, and it is work, and it gets devoured so quick. Same thing in my household, it just gets devoured really quickly.
Yeah. Okay. I think you have one more, right?
Oh, my last one,
Yeah.
I put down textured vegetable protein, and I think that's a nice one for because the cost of animal protein is pretty high. This one is a great one if you mix it with animal protein or on its own, then it adds like extra nutrition, and it's a complete protein. So like it's a great way for people especially people, because there are people who feel like plant-based eating is not for them, or they think it doesn't taste good.
Mhm.
But when you have it like mixed in with other proteins or something, then it's a good way to kind of introduce yourself to it. But it also, I think it improves the nutrition profile, because if you're using less animal protein, then you're also the it doesn't have as much saturated fat. So that makes it better in a way, and it's very versatile. So and it's affordable, so you
Yeah.
can put it in so many things, and it would just give you that extra protein boost, and can take on whatever flavor that you are cooking with, like whatever sauces or seasonings or marinades you're using.
Yeah, I love that you highlighted that because I think, like obviously as a vegan, I'm so excited when people eat fully plant-based meals, but I also think then that people forget that you can add plant-based proteins
Yeah.
with less animal. And there are
Yeah.
like many cuisines where, like tofu, for example, is like
Yeah.
there's like a tiny bit of pork, but like the main deal is the
Yeah.
tofu, but there's a tiny little bit of pork for like the flavor. And that's a really great way for people who are skeptical of plant
Yeah.
based proteins to sort of like introduce it in a way that they might enjoy more.
Yes. Oh, definitely. It's like little small changes, little things that you can try. And it is one that also is lower cost too. So it makes it easier and more accessible for people.
Yeah, no, that's great. And because you mentioned TVP, I think this is a great place because I want to do a little bit of myth busting with you too. And I think the first place, like we have to start, even though We've all been saying this for many years, shouting it from the top of the rafters, but I still think we have to answer the question in this context of like, okay, so soy. Is
Yeah.
soy good for us? Is there like a danger to consuming so much soy? Like, lay it out for us. What's the evidence?
I mean, like, I don't I don't think people can eat enough soy for it to be bad for them. When you think about, I think that just comes from like a fear and misinformation thing.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of men, it's like men shouldn't eat soy, which you still have that, which is like, no, like where does that come from? It's like it's the bro science, it's just
Yeah.
like it's great food, it can help reduce your risk of heart disease. There are studies that show that it has a protective effect against breast cancer. It's a complete plant protein. It's affordable. Uh, and also it's like versatile protein as compared to say like animal protein as well. Like you can do a lot of things. I think there's that whole part about like thyroid and people thinking that, and that's misinformation as well too. Like it's bad for your thyroid. I hear that too.
Mm,
Um, and I hear that about, and then it's like the one that where it's bad for men, that one as well. So I think it's something that we'll keep having to bust. And I don't know what it is about. I don't know if it's just because in North America we're not as used to eating a lot of soy because it's just not as like I know in the vegetarian vegan community it's a great thing, but like
yeah.
I do know that when I like for example when I do television work and I talk about soy on TV, I know or I bring a soy dish, I know people aren't like I'm so excited to try that after. They're just kind of like okay, maybe we'll try it, maybe it'll be okay. It's like I can tell it's still not um really popular. It's still and people still I don't know trying to find reasons to say that it's not good for them, and
I know.
I think it's a lot of like fear and misinformation.
Yeah, me too. I think the thing that I see most often, like I absolutely see the thyroid thing, that's a tongue
Yeah.
twister.
Yeah.
And which, and there's always like a tiny kernel of truth that gets completely
Yes.
like blown out of
That's what it
proportion. So
is.
like soy can interact with some thyroid medications. So you
Yes.
wouldn't want to take your thyroid medication and then eat a soy breakfast right after. But the soy itself is not harming your thyroid like at all.
Yes. Yes. I think that was where I heard too, and I've heard people say it's like goitrogenic. I've heard people say
Mhm.
that as well. And I'm like, like I haven't heard that. Or I think sometimes do somewhere when you say not to take it with your thyroid medication, that message just kind of gets mixed up to just say just don't take it at all. Because it's
Yeah.
easier to say that than to say, okay, don't take them at the same time. And of course everyone just kind of interprets things in their own way. And then sometimes you also see misinformation on blogs. Like I see stuff like, where, on food blogs, I still see people saying things about that. And I'm just like, that's actually being debunked. Like, I don't know why that's still going around. And so if you're just Googling stuff and reading things online and that's what you find, then,
Yeah.
it's that believing things on the internet thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very alluring. It's very convincing, but it's often not true.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, let's talk about MSG because we sort of mentioned it up at the top. Because again, there is a lot of misunderstanding about MSG and its health effects. So, like, maybe we should say, what the heck is MS? Like, what does MSG mean? And, like, what actually is it?
MSG, monosodium glutamate, is glutamate, which is an amino acid combined with sodium, so like Na plus, to make monosodium glutamate. Discovered by a scientist, Japanese scientist. His name is Ekida, and he discovered it when he was extracting it from seaweed. That it gave it that umami taste, and that umami taste that is a savory taste that you find in a lot of foods. So like tomatoes, Parmesan cheese, tuna fish, you know, even breast milk has some of it. I think somewhere there was some, again, misinformation that came about where it is a flavor enhancer that comes from Asia and it was used in a lot of different foods like Campbell soup and lots of things. And then there was an association of it being used in a lot of Chinese restaurants and that being not being good for you. There's a lot of studies that were not really greatly done studies. Like they're done usually on mice where you would give a really high amount of MSG to a mouse and then, see what would happen. And you got to think about the size of a mouse and the quantity of how much MSG they were putting, like maybe in their drinking water to see what would happen. And they started having a lot of like ill health effects. So, and I think they also found too that the mice would eat like more or something like that when they put more. I don't know if that's exactly what it was that they would eat more. I'm like, well, they did put a flavor enhancer in the food or in something. Um, so I think and I think that kind of blew out also with media stories and I think what was happening at the time. I think it was in the 60s when there was a lot of like kind of like the anti-communist propaganda going on where it was like, you know, as North Americans, we don't want our government to be like, you know, Cuba or, China, where they have that. And this is something that fueled that kind of fear, like, oh, this MSG being put in the food is making us sick. And what are they putting in the food? It's kind of a distrust of like the other kind of mentality. And that became a big thing. And the media took it and was like, Chinese food is making you sick or making you crazy. And this is why, because of this. And this is this. And I find anything that's a white powder to people is like suspicious to different, like whether it's salt or it's MSG or it's laundry detergent or it's sugar. People always think, or it's cocaine, they're always assume that it's like dangerous or it's like it's going to cause harm. But really, you don't know what the substance is, right? It could be anything that's a white powder, but people like to fear those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so interesting with MSG because people do forget that free gluten. So, I mean, it's salt. Really, MSG is a different kind of salt because it's sodium, which is in table salt, and then glutamate, which is an amino acid. And my gosh, people are so protein focused these days. Amino
Yeah.
acids, people, are the building blocks of protein.
Yeah.
But I also love the aspect of MSG. One, it makes food taste delicious. And if you have taste buds that maybe have been raised on a lot of fast foods, a lot of hyper processed foods, and you're like, I'd like to bring more whole foods in my diet, and they taste like sawdust, something like MSG, applied in just a little bit can help make those vegetables, those whole grains taste
Yeah.
really good to you and might actually encourage you to eat more healthful foods than if you didn't have that little trick up your sleeve.
Yeah. It's the idea of it's like when we talked about like vegetables that were unseasoned and overcooked before. It's like, well, what if it was cooked more like this and seasoned with like a little bit of MSG to get you to eat those, I don't know, that broccoli or those green beans for people who say like, I just don't eat vegetables. I don't like vegetables. It's because, well, you've never had it in a tasty way. And that's probably why it's always been overcooked and mushy. So that's a way it makes vegetables more palatable and a lot of foods more tasty. And it's like naturally because when you eat a tomato, you kind of feel that natural umami thing in the tomato as well. I've noticed. I'm just like, oh, like you just taste it. You just know it's the same flavor thing that's kind of the savory taste, like the fifth basic taste that you are getting in your mouth that just makes it taste like, there's something in there that tastes good and is like savory and it just makes me I don't like it. Like it's just, and it's something that's again, people don't say, watch out for the MSG in your tomatoes, or even like Parmesan cheese. What Parmesan
Yeah.
cheese is, when you think about it, is a processed food, and well, all food is processed in some way, but like no one says, be careful of the MSG in Parmesan cheese. Nobody ever says that. It's
Yeah.
like it's like Parmesan cheese makes things taste good. That's just the way it is, and then. But no, with no mention of like that extra umami that's coming from the MSG. It's like, but it's Parmesan cheese. It's safe. It's like, no, well, it has it too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. So reserve the same respect and admiration for the flavor powers of MSG that you do for Parmigiano Reggiano.
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Another one is anchovies, but I think people don't like anchovies because they're fish, because it's fish. That's why. So people get freaked out. They're like, because the little bit of anchovy has that umami. Again, it's the same thing, but they're like you, but that's different. It's because it's fish, and people are like, yuck, fish. So
I know. I came from a family. Portuguese people will literally like whatever they can drag out of the ocean, they will and actually
yeah,
eat.
yeah,
And yeah, but it is interesting to see that a lot of people have that sort of like, seafood. No. Which I feel like
yes.
we could do like a whole other episode on,
Oh,
but here we
for
are.
sure. No, yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
I feel like this is the perfect point to switch into the rapid fire, just like 5 little getting to know you questions,
Okay.
starting with, because we've talked about fruit, but like, what's your favorite vegetable?
My favorite vegetable would be, I'm thinking about it too much, choy-sum.
Okay, amazing. And what do you like to do with it?
Sometimes I like to stir fry it or I like to boil it with a little bit of water, with a little bit of salt. And it's like the nice vegetable, which gives you also a lot of really good roughage. And I like it a little better than Gailan because Gailan tends to
Mm.
be more tough. So I usually will go for the choy-sum first, because it just, it's a good one.
I eat a lot of Gailan, but I should eat more choy sum because it is. Gailan has got it's got some stem to it, you know?
They both have it. They both do.
Yeah,
But
they do.
Gailan is great too. It is. It's just chewier. It's just harder. So
Totally. Okay, I love that. Okay, the next one might sound like a pipe dream because you have toddlers, but pretend you have 20 minutes all to yourself. You're not allowed to be productive, whether at work or in the home. Like, what do you do for yourself in those 20 minutes?
I would probably get a book and sit in the bathtub. That's what I would do. Yeah, put on the bath, get a book, and sit there. Like that's something I never could do now, but like right now in my life, but like that'd be what I can do. Something a little for myself and just kind of relax.
I love it. That's exactly what I do. And the bath book days are coming back to you. They are coming back to you.
Okay.
Okay. The biggest misconception you think people have about dietitians?
That we're the food police. I think I we see that all the time. We always eat like we're judging other people food and and then but it's funny because people are usually judging us more. I find people tend to judge us more for our food choices, which I find really funny. So
Yeah,
but we're not the food police. No, we're not.
it's true. Love it. Okay. Next one, imagination time. Bucket list trip, money, no object. Where would you go?
I would probably want to go to Hawaii because I've never seen it, and I don't know, it just looks really cool and fun, and uh you know and the food looks good too, so I would like to go.
They have a super cool multicultural food culture there. It's
Yes.
like so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix of different stuff all together, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think I would want to go there. That would be fun.
amazing. It would be fun. Okay, last one. One thing that you're like hoping to embrace or like a growing opportunity for yourself in 2025, like something you're just sort of like in the ether. You're like, I want to work on this, or I want to be more this, or do more this.
I would want to what would I want to do in 20? That's a hard one. There's so
It's
many
hard.
things. You got to focus on one thing. Um, I think what I would want to do is kind of make my blog more food focused, more food and um, like give people more of the healthy Asian food recipes and information that they would need on my blog more. That's what I would want to do.
Amazing. And you've got a great newsletter going. So we're going to make sure that we put a link in the show notes so everyone can sign up for your awesome newsletter and get more of your incredible information. It's been so much fun having this chat. I know that like we all just need a little boost of inspiration like every once in a while. Like already I'm like, oh yeah, like choy sum. Like, of course, I haven't had that in like a really long
Yeah.
time and I should eat more of it. So you've inspired me and I'm sure you've inspired everyone else who's listening.
Thank you for having me, Desiree.